Welcome to Twin Speak, Christian music and other stuff. I'm Joe.
And I'm Matt.
And we're twin brothers who, like many of you, were raised on and by Christian music. Listen as we dive into the melodies and lyrics. We'll explore the artists and bands that shaped our upbringing, from the synthesizing energy of Krumbacher to the hard rock anthems of Petra, Skillet, Whiteheart, Striper, and more. We'll share our favorite memories, the concerts that blew our minds, and the tracks that still resonate with us today. In each episode, we'll not only review iconic albums and songs, but also invite special guests, fellow musicians, fans, and maybe even some of our childhood heroes to join in on the conversation. Expect plenty of surprises, from deep dives into the stories behind the songs and twin banter that comes along with being twin brothers. So whether you're a die-hard fan or just curious, we promise to keep it entertaining. Get ready for some epic throwbacks, insightful discussions, and of course, lots of laughter. Let's celebrate the music that brought us together and continues to inspire us. Welcome to the journey of Twin Speak.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twin Speak Christian music and other stuff. Appreciate everyone joining in. My name is Matt Prainito, and I'm joined here by my lesser half. Not as good looking, not as smart, not as intelligent.
Nope.
But you know, he's there nonetheless. So, Joe, do you want to introduce yourself as something of meaning?
You know what? Yes.
Significance.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry you're feeling self-conscious about yourself today. Anyways, but at least I have integrity. So, Matt.
Oh,
it's yeah.
Was that you're the one that put dummy under my name?
Yeah. Well, I see it as I call him as I see him, Matt. But anyways,
I know.
Matt, it's good to see you.
Hey,
and
let's stop talking. Let's stop talking about you. All right. Let's stop talking about you.
Please.
All right. You've been doing this all our life. We're actually here and joined by frontman, lead singer, Rick Florian of Whiteheart. And so, how you doing, Rick?
I'm doing dandy once we get our computer stuff happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
I'm going to say at the start, yesterday was my older brother's 65th birthday, and he also retired from 45 years on the job up in Bridgman, Michigan, a little tiny town on the southwest corner. And so we're not twins like you dudes, but he's now 3 years older than me for another couple months, and then we'll be 2 years away from each other. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Don't do the math, man.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Let me see here.
Happy retirement.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I can't wait till, that'll be fun to get there. Well, thank you so much, though, for joining us. Have you taken care of your lawn and leaves lately? I'm just joking.
No, we actually have a little snow on the ground here south of Smash Vegas, Tennessee, and I think it'll be gone probably today. We had about 4 days in a row where we never got above freezing, which is about once a year we do something like that crazy.
Oh, nice. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for taking the time to join with us today.
Sure.
Really appreciate it. Joe and I have followed Whiteheart for many, many years, and in your music, and so we just appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. This is an honor to be able to speak with you.
Oh, I appreciate you giving me a shot of yapping with you.
Oh, Joe's a yapper, so
Yeah, yeah.
You're among yappers.
Yeah. So we're good. So honestly, we'll probably just go back, and just have some questions for you. This will only take about 5 minutes, times 6, times 6 or 7.
1 moment, please.
Okay.
Sorry. My assistant, I was having my tea improved.
Oh, yeah.
She's very pretty, my assistant. She's very lovely.
Well,
she
that's
doesn't
good.
want to be on camera, even though she's pretty. So, sorry, I digress.
I would assume that she's probably your assistant's also your wife. I'd assume.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's good.
she helps me
That's
with my ADHD, and yeah.
There's only 2 women I get to call pretty: my wife
Yeah.
and my daughter.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, me too. Actually,
I only
every
have
once in a while
one
I call
daughter.
Joe pretty, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, so Rick, kind of diving in, because Whiteheart's an iconic band. I mean, when you think of Christian music and where Christian music came from, especially Christian rock music. It's one of those bands that you go to, along with like Petra or Striper or things like that, that you guys have just kind of paved the road for many other Christian artists. But going back to you, because your voice is incredible. It seems very like you can just open your mouth and it just automatically comes out. It's just amazing. And seeing you perform a number of times where it's just, how the heck does he do that live? When did you first learn that you had this voice, that you had this gift?
I always like to say that everybody's mom tells them they can sing, like oh, little Ricky. And so that doesn't really count for anything valid. I just we grew up rural farmlands in northern Indiana. We actually didn't grow up with much music other than singing at the little country church in the choir. And, that got about as crazy as Bill Gaither, Southern gospel stuff. And it wasn't really until between my junior and senior year of high school, this buddy of mine that I'll never forget even the image of we go into his bedroom and he's got a record player in there. And the first album he puts on is Dan Fogelberg, Netherlands. I do not know if anybody who's listening has heard it before, but it's still to this day one of the most beautiful, because there's even strings on it and stuff. I grew up on a lot of pop, rock, 70s stuff, but it wasn't until then. I'm like 17 years old, and the first concert I went to was Foreigner, Hot Blooded Tour.
Okay.
And then the next show was Larry Norman. Most of you out there listening have not heard of Larry Norman. He has passed away. Yeah. And actually, those first two guys I ever listened to, they both died within about 6 months of each other. I remember when that happened.
Oh, wow.
In the 70s, they didn't call it, I don't think it was in the 80s when they start calling it Christian music. It was kind of from the Jesus movement, where some of these guys, like when Phil Keaggy got saved, and several of these guys, Glenn Kaiser from Res Band, in their conversion, their music didn't change. Their heart changed, and therefore, out of your heart, the stuff comes out that you're living in. And so when, sipping whiskey from a paper cup, drown your sorrows till you can't stand up. I haven't heard that yet on any CCM stuff that would be playing right now.
No,
right.
But I loved it, the rawness and the authenticity of it, without trying to clean up the lyrics or clean up, even the music, if you will. You're just doing your thing and then telling what you're feeling. And so there was an authenticity that I was gravitating to. And then a lot of the pop rock thing, I like to say, when I put my penny into Columbia House and I was able to get 13 LPs, the flat round stuff that's popular now. And I got Fleetwood Mac Rumors and Boston, More Than a Feeling, and ELO, and I can't think of all the different ones, but I could over time. Eagles, especially. Eagles, one of my top 3 favorite bands of all time. But melodic stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff that was melodic. It was then I started listening in the radio. When we were in the car growing up, we never listened to the radio. It was off, and we're just going somewhere. We would be talking or something, but like music wasn't. I think we had 2 LPs at home: Mitch Miller and the Gang, Christmas, and Mormon Tabernacle Choir Christmas thing, and that was about it. My sister bought "Staying Alive," the Bee Gees thing, and I really loved what. I was just like sponging this stuff in. So when I'm in my car singing out loud to, more than I feel it, it was like, the music energizes you, and so that's just. It wasn't really that I thought I could. I was in college there at Taylor University and didn't really do much at all of anything. I didn't do anything there until about my junior year, and Jeff Moore was a year ahead of me, and soon later to be my roommate, Arlen Troyer, bass player for him. They're in their senior year. We did a thing at school where I sang a duet with a guy, Mark Vanderveen, on my floor, and it was I think it was the one, wherever your treasure might be. Steve Archer, that's it. Steve Archer.
I love Steve Archer.
I told him in a LinkedIn thing once, like, dude, you were a part of my beginning. That was awesome. And because Jeff and Arlen heard it, good, hey, can you sing BGVs on this little band we got together? And we did 2 things, and then the rest was kind of history and just evolved from there, really.
Wow.
Yeah,
and that's quite the difference coming from no music in the car to church music. What a quick transition to Larry Norman, because it is very honest.
Yeah,
and it's some would say even like it was quite the stretch. You're right. You probably wouldn't hear that today in CCM.
Not probably.
No,
at least not on the radio.
Yeah.
no, not on the radio. And probably not in the youth group either.
Well, so he mentions an STD in that same song, and it's like never heard that on, ever since I was doing it.
No.
Yeah, he talks about a perfect something or other as well. So it's I remember listening to that song, being like, "Wait, who's this?
Yeah.
I wish we'd all been ready. He wrote that song, but wait a minute, this song,
Yeah,
something else." So you're in college. You meet Jeff. You do a duet. Like, how does this transition yourself into being somebody singing on the floor of a show or a talent show or something, to being the front man of Whiteheart?
Well, that was my junior year when I did the thing with Jeff. He moved down to Nashville through a connection with Billy Smiley from Whiteheart. He produced Jeff's first album, and my senior year when Jeff and Arlen were gone, the kind of leftover guys in that band, we did, I think, twice perform. Yeah, once was like a youth weekend, like visit Taylor University. We played down in the dining commons, just did some cover tune stuff. And then we did, Carlson, who was the Christian art solo artist back in the 80s? Oh my God, Chris, no, is it Carlson? Oh, what is it? I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, we, like, in quotes, opened for him, this solo artist. Okay. So after that, it was like, I was thinking that, I was going to do marine biology probably down in Florida after I got my bio degree. But I asked my folks, hey, do you care if I go down to Nashville for a year just to mess around, and never been west of Illinois, and being a Hoosier, it was kind of, I just wanted to see if I could get on the road crew with somebody, mess around. And I did that. I drove a truck for Smitty back in 85. And he was doing the Friends tour with Kathy Tricoli and Billy Sprague. Okay. And a lot of the guys that were playing in Michael's band were ones that are like, that I'm friends with now, because early in the day, it was like Chris Rodriguez, one of the most amazing guitar players, singers. He was in the band at the time, and he's been, who's the artist we heard singing yesterday? The girl singer was singing at one of the award shows.
Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, Kelly Clarkson. Like Chris has been playing for her for years, and it's I don't know. It was just like I went down there after school and got that gig with Smitty, and then after that ended, Whiteheart needed another stage manager, so I interviewed for that job with Gordon Kennedy's brother, who was a road manager, Brian Kennedy, who is Garth Brooks' right-hand man, and he's had Garth cuts and stuff, and he, Brian's awesome. Oh my gosh, he's crazy, funny. All those brothers, the Kennedy brothers and Gordon. So I got the gig on stage doing that, and then when the lead singer had to leave, they decided they were going to continue. They held auditions. I auditioned with I don't remember, half a dozen guys that came into town, and a couple weeks later, another set of guys did it again, and then a third time. In the third time, I was like, do they actually think I can do this thing, or are they just so codependent and can't who's going to be the one to tell Rick he can't do it? So I didn't know until they said, okay, we're going to try you on a weekend of shows. You're kind of raw, which is very true. I just had no experience of other than singing in the car and in a couple gigs. So Wheaton College was my first show that I did up at their auditorium, and they hadn't asked me to quit after that. So
wow,
okay,
did about 12 years.
Yeah.
And which album was that off of?
Well, we were touring the Hotline album. It had already been recorded, and so we did the Hotline album. Actually, the first song, you come in, we have this phone booth that bring out on stage to start the show, and then we got like fog machine in it, and it's fogging, and oh my gosh, I'm laughing I think about it now. But yeah, I just thought I was going to spontaneously combust. I was so scared. I was like, what am I doing up here? This is crazy. And,
Yeah, seriously,
to
go from being, a stage manager and then in touring in that sense, and then all of us, or a truck driver and all of a sudden now you're, in a phone booth, or you're on stage with thousands of people out there, or wherever you're at. Yeah, that's got to be a little overwhelming for a moment. You start looking around, being like, "I'm supposed to be over there, probably," and now you're on center stage.
I just was worried about forgetting lyrics.
Yeah.
As my wife knows, I'm not, the top shelf best memory in the history of mankind. And I have sang wrong lyrics when you forget them. Over the 12 years, it's bound to happen. And I forget this one festival somewhere in Illinois. It was the first festival I ever did. It was like Jesus Midwest or something. It's not around anymore. But there was a song where hear the starting gun. There's end of a phrase. I can't even remember which song it was, but look, you got to run. Hear the starting gun. And I sang something. Because I sang something, look out, he's got a gun, is what I ended up singing.
Oh, no.
And after that song was over, it was a break time where Gersh was talking. I came off stage, and Gordon, I wish you could, he's done this and still does it to this day, calls me Ricky D. And he'd like put his hand on my shoulder and then lean in a little and look at you and goes, what? What's that? And the number of times he's done that to me is more than twice. And so you just got to, fill it in with something,
Right.
And it just may not make sense, but
and these days, it's funny because I'll go to concerts and there's screens on the ground, scrolling the lyrics for, the artist.
That would have been heavenly.
So you don't forget it.
I would love that. I would love it.
Yeah.
I've seen Alice
Especially
Cooper.
in larger bands.
Yeah.
Alice Cooper has it, Aerosmith.
Yeah.
You have to, especially a band like that, might have 25 albums. Goodness, you can't hardly remember anything. But every once in a while, probably once or twice a tour, I would forget the lyrics, and it's playing the first 4 to 8 bars before I'm supposed to start singing the first verse, and I'm like, oh crud, yeah. What is it? So I'd always run up and jump on Gersh's stand, riser, right up to his keyboard, and I go, words. I just go words to him, and then he go, da 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 da. I was like, I've been less than a second needing them, and he threw it out, and I just started singing like I was starting out with Gersh in my, stage dancing. So
that's hilarious.
Well, and you just mentioned that you're stage dancing. So first show, did you move a lot? Because you're an energetic lead man, you're like very energetic, and I feel like I've seen a transition in you over the years. But curious to know, what was the first like?
Yeah, I
Did you
hope
stand
so.
there
Well, at
scared?
Wheaton, I had, again, I'm like, my heart's pounding out of my chest. And so, because I'm hyper, like, I just went ultra hyper. And I was running around the stage, like uncontrollably, back, forth, side to side, and after about the second and halfway through the third song, I was just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I couldn't hardly get lyrics out, and I said to myself, I guess you better slow down, dumbhead, so you can, get through the night. Because I think I thought if I ran fast enough, nobody would see me, and then I wouldn't have to feel self-conscious of messing up. I don't know if I actually got that fast, but
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how did
Instead, you saw everybody in the crowd turning their head, like, "Why are they saying no? Do they not like what I'm doing?
everybody's got
They're trying to
whiplash
track
at the
me
end of
down."
the show. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
over time, you get comfortable, and then, frankly, then you get more joy out of the experience, because my favorite thing is connecting with the audience, almost in some physical way, but it's really a spiritual way. It's um, you could look at some friend of yours and tell by what their face looks like if they're happy, sad, or whatever. And so when we connect, that connecting with the audience was my favorite thing that would, help me keep my feet off the stage throughout the night. It was just so joyful. And,
Yeah.
we tried to always remember, like, these people are getting babysitters, spending a lot of money to come, hear what we do. And we just wanted to give them as much as we could and be an encouragement. And it was just,
Yeah,
that part was the best part of doing
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
And I'll
By far.
say,
Well, I have to.
I'll say that we're two products of that. We've been to several shows, Knott's Berry Farm in California, Six Flags
Oh,
in
yeah.
California. We're I'm not sure if those are the only. I've seen you several times, but and with that, not only were we inspired just by watching you guys on stage. You guys look like you're having a great time. You look like you like each
Yeah,
other. That's a big help.
that's a plus.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, to walk away from that show feeling encouraged, feeling like feeling drawn to my relationship with God even deeper, just based off of an hour and a half show. It's like, wow, man, I just feel like I need to go someplace and just pray. Like, and it's a rock
Mhm.
show, but at the same time, it really did help us. And I know we went through, we have a broken family at a time when Whiteheart was very, very big in our lives and very inspirational. And being able to
Yeah,
not only read the liner notes and be able to get some inspiration off of the lyrics, at the same time going and seeing what we saw and hearing what we heard you guys say was very, very encouraging. So thank you
yeah,
from two people that you connected with, and still do after all these years.
That's
Really.
oh yeah,
awesome. It
yeah.
is. Every once in a while,
Well,
when I hear an old CCM thing or whatever, um, it's usually nostalgic in a good way. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I remember at one of the shows. I mean, we were two kids in junior high that would honestly sing the song weeks before we'd see you. Just we'd stand there singing it in junior high, like, and so. But the song "Fly Eagle Fly," we had bought the album. Don't Wait for the Movie had the video album, and it was a song that I liked. But because of the time in our life, I remember when you played it live. For
Mm.
some reason, it resonated more because that hope and that strength that's found beyond music, but it's scripture, and it's just bringing that to life. The fact that you grew up in a small town, Indiana, and church, how did that feed into the lyrics and the connection that you made with the audience? Because it seems like you really did connect, but it was on a level of ministry.
I, the connection part is, on some level, uh, just, I don't know how to describe it, because, like, when I was saying both the spiritual and, um, like almost physiological stuff that we're made of and that God made us for. It is, it's what, kind of like when you think of friendship, and the joy that comes from that. And then when you know that you're there for the same reasons, and that kind of is lovely and wonderful. And that even just made me think, like when we go to Europe, um, the thing that I liked about going to Europe was Christians were they were either Christian or they were not a Christian, and the church is fairly dead over there, except for like you don't just play church kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're going because God's calling you, you feel encouraged by the truth of the gospel, and so you want to be there and come
Yeah.
with other people in community to do that.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, many less Christians were at our show. There was a higher percentage of non-Christians at our shows,
Right.
which from an evangelical standpoint was really cool. And
Yeah.
so that part of it, you get a leg up to talk about the gospel because they were intrigued by your musicality. Some of the band members that were all studio players and stuff. I remember Gordon once getting interviewed for Guitar Player Magazine Europe, and those kind of things allowed us to get into some places where, frankly, sometimes in the States wasn't the same. The separation of mainstream music and Christian music, in some ways, I think wasn't good for Christian music. And that's why at some point I really just wanted to say, we're Christians who play music,
Yeah.
rather than playing in quotes Christian music. It's like you don't have a Christian knife,
Right.
but Gersh would say from stage, you could, butter your toast with a knife or you could stab somebody. So what are we doing with the tool we got?
Right.
And, because your words will say what, who you are and what you're about in your songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny because it's true. I mean, we'd go to a Christian concert, quote, Christian concert,
Yeah.
in the States, and majority of the people there, they're Christians. They're bringing their youth groups, they're bringing their church. So you'd bump into somebody, right? And they would just be like, "Oh, no problem. God bless you." You know what I mean? It was just very, we just really wore that on our sleeve because it was a place that we had togetherness, which was great
Yes.
because
You
you're like,
feel
"Oh
safe.
man, this is awesome. We can sit right here and pray for one another." But
Yeah.
then to be able to go, overseas, and now you're in a missions field. You
It felt more that way. Yeah.
yeah, things
We had some drunk guys at times when we were playing in some big clubs. Uh, and so that was kind of interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, we didn't have it at, when we were at Blah Blah Baptist Church auditorium playing, we didn't have many drunk people that I knew of. So it was, but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. But I did love that part a lot.
Yeah.
Now you're
How was it? Go
Go
ahead, Joe.
Okay. I was kind of going back to the music side of things where you started off, and one of our our first album of Whiteheart was Live at Six Flags. And, so that's Steve Green.
Wow.
And, Matt's got it right
Oh,
there.
yeah,
Yeah, right there. Vinyl.
Steve's an amazing singer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And based off of real videos, we saw a video called He's Returning. And, from the song He's Returning, and we're like, wow, we love this. So we went to the Christian bookstore and we put our money together and bought this, Live at Six Flags and listened to it over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, real videos. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the program on TBN.
I remember it, but I don't remember anything about it, frankly.
That was
I
how
remember
we-
it existed.
That was just
It was
how
like an MTV for Christian music.
Yeah,
But it was an hour-long episode.
So
something like that.
we stayed up till midnight, as kids, waiting for these new videos to come out. That's how we learned about Christian music. We didn't have Facebook, or Spotify.
Yeah, outlets for that.
Yeah. So anyways, but then all of a sudden, Convertibles comes on, and we're like, what is this? Like, what band is this?
Yeah.
We watched the whole video, and and then it says Whiteheart, and we're like, wait a minute, there is a drastic change between live at Six Flags and convertibles, and we went out that next week and bought Don't Wait for the Movie, and we're just completely blown away because we liked Whiteheart, but all of a sudden we loved Whiteheart. We're just and how was for you that transition in music? Because I believe you took the band just into a different genre from and maybe that was part of the times that times were changing a bit, but from more worship and praise into a Christian rock band. I mean, how was that to kind of be in that pivotal moment of change for my heart?
A little bit of it is I didn't know what I didn't know because it wasn't somebody like Gordon grew up from his youngest preschool days in the music industry. His dad, Jerry Kennedy, if you ever see the Ken Burns documentary on Nashville country music, it is really, really good. But Jerry was his dad was just produced the Statlers and stuff like this. He became a record exec when he was in his early 20s. I mean, it was
Wow.
nuts. Could have even been earlier. And he was about to throw in the towel too. And then that came up, and then the rest is history. And the artists, and like when you hear Pretty Woman, Pretty Woman, down, 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 that's Gordon's dad. And he was a studio guitar guy in town for decades. And so it's like he lived and breathed music his whole life. It was like in his veins. And for me, it wasn't until that senior year in high school. And so, and he was in and out of studios a lot. So when I go in the studio to record Don't Wait for the Movie, the good thing about the studio life, and they do it differently now, but back then, we would lease out, say, a studio for a month. And then we will have, at that point, whittled down the songs to maybe about 15, 16 songs. Okay. And we start playing the ones we know are going to be on the album. And as you start fleshing those things out and they round out and they become, 90% of what it's going to be, and you get half a dozen of those, then you look at the album as a whole. We always wanted the album to be listened to, from 1 to 10. Like we put them in a certain order for specific reasons, how we wanted to carry stories and or the dynamics of what a whole album would be for you. I think that's one of the, there's good things about what music has become as far as the distribution element by Spotify and all that crud. It is, but it's like there was a patience of listening to music and listening to this whole body of work for that few years. This is what we wanted for you guys. And, there are songs that just didn't make it. Even actually Convertibles ended up being on that album because when we had like 9 songs and we're like, we got a lot of heavy stuff on here lyrically. And we need to be a little loose here, don't we? And we're like, yeah, dude, what do we got? And then Convertibles happened. It's one of the most juvenile things I think the band ever did. And, I know people liked it. My sister-in-law with my brother, who I'd mentioned that just had his birthday yesterday and is retiring, they wanted me to sing that at their wedding, that coming down the aisle. And I'm like, no. I am not, no was the answer. And they laughed, but they would have loved it. But I'm like, no, thank you. So I ramble off so much that I'm not sure what our original point was.
Because with that song, with us, I mean, that song drew us in because it was fun. And I think I've heard, Gersh even say, the good thing about Christian music is you could talk about everything. You could talk about anything, and which is so true. You know, you could talk about love, you could talk about your kids, your wife, you could talk about your faith, you could talk about your struggles, you could talk
Same.
about, how convertibles are just as American as apple pie. I mean,
Yeah,
Yes.
and
and
Yes.
lemonade.
and just have fun with it. And I know for us, that might have been the song that drew us in. But
Hmm.
then songs like Holy Ground, Fly
Yep.
Eagle Fly,
Hmm.
70 times 7.
70 times
That
7.
song.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Like,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, at a time when I was going through it, when our
Yeah.
parents were struggling, 70 times 7 played over and over and over
Hmm.
again,
Yep.
because I'm like,
Yep.
okay, I can forgive. I can forgive. I can
Hmm.
forgive. And yeah, but I can see the weight of the album, but no, you answered that question well.
Yeah. With and from there, you I don't know, you've had there's so many albums that you've had. I don't know how many albums total. I think it was 11 albums total with Whiteheart. Whiteheart total,
Yeah.
at least from my count.
Something like that.
What's your favorite album?
Oh, freedom.
I Freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's not like I think the other ones stink. There is, even when you think of Don't Wait for the Movie, and because every album you put this whole thing together, not just
Yeah.
the individual songs exist on their own, but it's also part of a whole thing. And musically, lyrically, um, the the production of what Brown Bannister brought, it was always some member or multiple members of Whiteheart would often do the producing, because Whiteheart guys had produced other artists, so it's like
Yeah.
they know how to do that. But Brown was the only one when we were kind of coming to an element of, I think, a pinnacle of the guys that had been there a long time, for the most part, of a synergy that really kind of came together. And Brown is able to have respect of these other band members who have that skill level from a production standpoint to say, and Brown is the sweetheartest, nicest slave driver you'd ever meet. He, he'll sing me till I'm, on the floor, but he was so kind. You didn't see it coming until you're like, I'm hurting. I got to sit down. It is, but he's I think it was Gerst that said this in the past. Nothing on stage, but some producers are musical guys. Some guys are song guys, and he had both. Brown was able to both hear the sonic stuff that you need to hear, but then the lyrical elements of, and what's a good song, what's an average song, when you're just kind of putting it together, how it makes you feel and what's trying to say. It was just a great combination
Yeah.
of gifts at that moment with McHugh and with Tommy Sims and Gordon. That was the last time we got to do that together as a band, but that probably a little part of why I love that album so much. But
Yeah.
I also like some Powerhouse stuff, and I like some stuff from
Yeah.
just several
Yeah,
things.
Tales of
But
Wonder.
it's
Yeah.
more of like songs that maybe hit me through time rather
Yeah.
than whole albums. But it's easiest for me to say Freedom, really.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know for me, Freedom was an album that almost brought me into more Powerhouse. It was kind of this, okay, now I'm very much
Yeah.
hooked.
Yeah.
Like I love the music. I can keep playing it over and over. And you said something earlier, which is you put a kind of a group of songs on an album, and now with Spotify you can kind of pick and choose.
Yes.
The great thing about vinyl or cassette is you had to listen to it all the way through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you sat with the liner notes, you read the words, and that was the joy at that time.
I remember the first time I listened to one of my kids on their iPod, they're downloading songs. So it was like we still had hard copy, so to speak,
Yeah.
but and you looked at his like there was a part of it was kind of cool, but maybe I'm nostalgic, but I like the whole album thing, and
Yeah.
they would listen to whole albums sometimes, but it might have been like a, Stephen Curtis, Boston, blah blah, this eclectic group of like, wow, dude, this is like, it was interesting because that kind of thing never existed before for
Right.
somebody, you'd had to put your LP on and then play one song and then pull it off and put another song on you want to hear.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
did that. And
Right.
you might listen to a side and then go throw something else on. So it's just the way they do it now. It's got some pros and cons to it. The eclectic nature is what I think I kind of gave into, is like, there's something to be said for that. Almost like experimenting in different styles of music and things like that. But I think it also was another large step in the beginnings of, commercials used to be a 60-minute or 60-second thing, then 30 seconds, then 15. Like
Right.
everybody, I don't have time for nothing. I got to go get this and that. And they just run next, and it just seems like it keeps moving faster. And at some point, the way that we're consuming information or putting information out, and it's just like, I know on a bad day, I just want Jesus to come back. I'm supposed to, for me being in his glory, but sometimes I'm like, the world is so messed up. Can you get us out of here now, buddy? Come on, we're ready.
Yeah.
And, because it's just like, I don't know what the whole AI stuff, and you can't tell what's real, what's not real. It's
I know.
the evolution of where we're heading with the speed of info. We have God's word that we know is true and has stood the test of time. And there's not much else out there that kind of has, other than maybe some recordings of music. But
Right. Well, that's funny because, you bring that up with God's word. Even when you go to church these days, you're not expected to have to bring your Bible anymore. We'll go ahead and we'll put it on the screen for you. So you don't have to flip through the pages. And the amount of people that don't know their Bible, they don't know where to go. Growing up, that was one of the things we learned. Kids, it's time to go to church. Grab your Bible, grab your Bible, grab your Bible. And these days, kids, it's time to go to church. Like, wait a minute, let me get my phone. It's just, it's where our focus is so much different. And you find, like, I look around church and I see people, they're just constantly scrolling on their phone. Like, I'm looking at my Bible. Yeah, sure.
I'm hoping they're looking at their Bible,
Yeah. They just
because
bought
I do
something
that
off
most of the time. I actually do. And the one thing is, I don't know if I use it enough that way that I know how to meander back and forth. It's on Ephesians right now, but then he runs back to Colossians, and I can go dink, 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 and then I'm there.
Right.
And so I see some ups, just like the other scenario we're talking about. I see the upside of it, but yeah, the negative impact, especially for young people who grew up with electronic gadgetry like that. I just hope we aren't creating Borgs. If you ever saw Star Trek,
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, going even to that from the ministry standpoint, how things are moving fast. That's what makes live music so great. Is it slows you down to go and sit there and listen to it and to watch it and to see, just to watch creativity taking place in front of you, or something's different from the album versus what's on stage.
Yes.
Which is really kind of cool too. You're like, oh, that was cool. That would have been fun on the album, or something.
Oh, you say that. It was also the irritating thing, because there was what we'd do before we even went in the studio is we'd rent a rehearsal hall. They had, where I grew up, what's a rehearsal hall? They don't have those. But it's literally like a big room with sound system. And I mean, it's probably a room. They had different size of ones, but we'd often get one. I mean, some of them were the size of half of a basketball, or like a whole one, and then some were like a half a one. But a lot of sound insulation and stuff, so you can jam. And the guy down the hall who's got their band's rehearsing or whatever. But at that point, we would have, before we even went in the studio to record, to get down to that 15, we would rent a place out for like 2 weeks, and we would have, again, we'd probably have about 15 to 20 whole songs. There'd be about another, 7 to 10 partial elements or a riff or something. And there's a lot of, we didn't smoke, but I just have this image of like sitting back and going, you're contemplating, you're thinking, you're not rushed. Like this studio time costs a lot more than rehearsal hall time.
Right.
And so you felt like you could just live and breathe some of the stuff. It'd be like a couple of the guys are doing some like lyrical thing in the corner while a riff's getting worked on, and Gordon maybe walk over to McHugh and McHugh, just give me this, and if Tommy wasn't one of the ones writing in the corner, he'd be like there. Tommy's a specter, man. He's like a ghost. He I think more than anybody ever been around musically, God stuffed all of his brain for creativeness, and then he, it filled up all the other side too. And so when it comes to like being in melodic stuff, just vibe on steroids, he is so good at it. And but anyway, it was like that's the creative time. But also when you were talking about, they did something different live than they did in studio. Part of the reason we wanted that 2 weeks is to evolve the songs we knew were going to be on the album, take them along further. Because what will happen is we do sometimes some stuff live that just happen. And after the show, we're on the tour bus and somebody might say, man, on blah, blah, when you came to the channel spot, when you did the Sun Tum Kata, you did that, we got to do that next show. Maybe we work on it at sound check because we take it out a little longer, and just that kind of stuff can be so fun. But then we're sad, like, crap, I wish we could have had that on the record, kind of thing. But
yeah. Well, and I think that's what's fun about the live experience is and even live albums when bands do live albums is you're able to hear something different than what you're used to.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
With Whiteheart, whenever I went to a show or I'd see a video, it starts off with the powerful, the rock, and then it goes into a place where then you have a song like Over Me or Desert Rose, where then suddenly there's now an atmosphere of worship. And so walk me through that, because then you go from an atmosphere of worship where there's pain in the audience, and then hope. People are in different phases, and then you get on a tour bus.
It is. It is just like when we do that for the album, the dynamics. Some part of it is the dynamics of taking somebody, wearing them out so that you can talk to them for a minute, kind of thing. Yeah. And there's a little bit of that in a song. So when you're setting down and maybe setting up a, Over Me song or something like that, it is, I think there is something about the fact that wear them out, and then it's like, oh, this is cool because I'm a little tired. And so that it creates another way of connection that's different from the rock stuff, but it's still a connection. And you tell stories. The songs are stories in and of themselves.
Yeah.
The heartache that was from several of the Fly Eagle Fly songs, especially. And, Over Me was the most worshipful one we probably, if you ask most of the guys, they would say was that. Yeah. And 70 times 7 is from a lot of, we get people that would come up after the show, and we found that the more vulnerable we are in a lyric, the more that there's a buy-in from the audience. Yeah. Like, oh, I see what you're saying.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and that and Over Me was one of those big ones. We we purchased all your guys' video albums and things like that. So we had
Hmm.
the Powerhouse one, and I just remember I had heard Over Me on Freedom, and
Yeah.
there was a kid on that video who said something like, "Man, when they started playing Over Me, like he says, it just did something to him." And so it's funny because then I went back and I listened to Over Me,
Hmm.
and just because I was in a different place, in my life and different,
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, like this. I didn't until that kid said something. I didn't even realize it. And then I'm like, geez, that's
Mm.
so it's kind of funny how some of those songs are just so alive. I mean, you get something different out of them as you get older. And Matt and I, we do this podcast where we go through albums from start to finish, and we just preview
Oh.
like the verse and the chorus.
Hmm.
And and we were just saying the other night we did one, and we said, man, what's so cool is to get to the end of it, and you're like, I'm hearing it different. I'm hearing it
Hmm.
different now, and it's so alive, and
That's fun.
yeah, so you see things differently as a kid than when you're older. Um,
Yeah.
now on stage, you were pretty dynamic. Now let's talk about your handspring.
Yeah.
Because
It
Can you
just,
still do that?
well, the
Yeah.
first time it happened, it just happened.
Okay. Oh,
And
really?
when I was at Taylor University, where I went in Indiana, the small little liberal arts Christian university, we actually had a little lake, and there's a little beach sand there and stuff. And so sometimes when we're just out messing around, somebody did a back handspring, and I go, dude, like show me show me, what are you doing? How do you do that? And it's really not that hard. Um, you just have to pretend like you're sitting down in a chair, but then immediately throw your body and your arms back and try to stand up as fast as you can because you're already committed backwards, and then the rest is gravity. It's
Yeah.
just it's not hard. The only thing on stage is I did is I think I didn't think about it the first few times I started doing it, but then when I started thinking, I'm like, man, I don't want to. I do this. Is there going to eventually be one where I wreck myself? And
Yeah.
the doing a back handspring with cowboy boots, just had to have the right kind of stage too
Oh
for it.
man.
Yeah.
Oh, you could slip right out from underneath you.
So you never fell off the stage or anything
No,
like
I
that.
did, but not from the back handspring. Uh, well, okay, that's a funny story. I'll have to go back to Chuck Wagon and the Wheels, but there is a. It was so funny. Whenever I would fall on stage, sometimes there was this one tour. Do yourself in line. What's the song? Anyway, there's a tour where at the end of this line that I would just fall over flat, just like a deadfall, jabonk, and
Mhm.
people would ask me like, was that an accident? What happened? Like the thing I did on purpose, they thought was an accident. Things that were accidents, they thought I did on purpose. I remember it, Atlanta. Did they call it Atlanta Fest? I think, and it was at an amusement park, like a Six Flags thing, and there had been some rain earlier in the day, and they'd had plastic they'd put on the monitor wedges along the front line of the stage, and it's big stage, and they had pulled those off when our set came up. And so I'm coming bounding out from the side of the stage on our first song. And I didn't know I landed on the plastic, but well, I mean, I stepped on the plastic, but I mean, I was moving toward the stage. And underneath were a couple big cables that I didn't know were out there. And so it was just like rolling on a log. It just went woo. My shoulder blades were the first thing that hit the ground.
Oh man.
And I had to sing my first words from my back because again it was like one of those forget your lyrics. I'm like, oh, and then I have to start singing. That was cool what you did when you sang from your back up there, and I'm like, yeah, it didn't feel great at all. Yeah, after the show, it was, but it's good for your ego.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Humbles you a little bit.
yeah, I would say so.
What song was just a mainstay? Like you had to play that song every show. You knew that the audience was waiting for it. it just became one of the core songs.
I would say because when you're doing a live thing and the energy that you want to thrust off the stage, it I think Independence Day, songs that made me dance kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was more of a thrashy dance, but I would spin a lot on that song.
I remember
We
that.
got a video of that. I think I was doing
Yep.
it. That was at
Oh,
the train station, Union Station, just off Broadway in downtown Nashville, when that was getting abandoned, but now it's all turned into fancy stuff. But Independence Day would have been one. Sing Your Freedom would have been one. I think Let It Go. Also Bye Bye Babylon
Oh yeah.
was another energetic one. Um, I also love the melodic nature of what was the Hey Sweetie, what was the one where we did that video at the fort downtown? It was black and white. It starts with a U.
Unchained.
Unchained. I
Oh.
really love somehow the melody of that one. I just, we can like some of our songs, but there's some that are like, I just loved, all the parts of what it did, and so it was a different kind of groove, but I could dance with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Now,
love that one. Yeah.
was there ever a song that you guys had to play that you really just didn't want to play? Because you're playing songs all the time.
Well, convertibles. I was glad when that one left the Rolodex. That one, because not Gordon. Billy and Gersh do play brass. Like
Yeah.
Gersh, when he started out, he was playing brass for the OJs, and it was just. I remember him saying once, like I was in this hall once, and I was the only white guy in the entire thing. He said it was great because I don't often get to feel what a minority feels like, and it was wild. And but it's that was something that they did the recordings of that. They didn't hire any studio guys. They had to kind of freshen up on some of their getting kind of their
Right.
groove back, so to speak. But and they did that live too.
Yeah.
And so it was just like the song's a little juvenile lyrically, and so it was like, and it was a little bubblegummy even musically when I think of it. It's got a little drive to it, but no pun intended.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably at least the main one. I would have also wanted other songs to go away because it wore the crud out of my voice because it was so high. We never did. What's the one from Freedom? Set the Bridge on Fire.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
great song.
it doesn't have the highest notes I ever had to do, but it doesn't really come down hardly at all, the whole song.
Yeah.
And so I'm working, and then I had to work harder because usually songs would come down enough
Right.
in the octave that you're like, I get a rest while I'm singing, and then I got to hit the high stuff. But that one was at least moderate the whole time and high, and I just knew it might blow me out for the rest of the night, and so we never did that one, and I'm
Jeez.
glad.
Nail,
And you're glad.
that Nailed Down also off of Powerhouse. That had some pretty high notes. Did you guys ever?
Yeah, I
Did you
forgot
guys ever
about
do
that.
that one? Was that one ever live?
What album was that one on?
Powerhouse.
I think we did. Yep, we did because I remember Brian Wooten and where I'd go over to him on some of the stuff. Yeah, we did that, and it's and if there was, I'm so thankful that 99.99% of the nights I could do it, and the nights where I was having problems, you have a cough or a cold and stuff that can really get to your vocal cords, drainage and stuff. That there were times where if you, not all the time, but sometimes, how I'm like singing, and then you hold the mic out to the audience. That you might have noticed it would have been on some high notes. If I was like, I don't want to do that right now. Well, what do you got for me? What do you got? Come on. And
You do it, not me.
so sometimes that was a sneaky way to not have to hit some high notes. And
fun.
sometimes if one of the other guys are doubling my vocal when you're doing parts, sometimes you end up stacking the same note vocally with another guy. And so if I could just kind of head voice falsetto it while the other guy's also there, that can have enough meat on the bone to come through okay. And so, yeah.
You mentioned, Joe mentioned Nailed Down, and you mentioned some other songs. One thing for me is whenever a Whiteheart song started with some kind of a sound effect, I knew it was going to be a great song. Yeah. It didn't even have to be music.
Power Tools.
But if it was Power Tools.
Yeah, well, Power Tools is the overt emblematic. We were at the Bennett House, and that was our favorite place to record. Chris McHugh with arms the size of legs. The front room in this old antebellum house, the ceilings are probably about 14 feet high, hardwood floors, old 1800s house. And the sound that you get with that room, sometimes we don't want that much, and then you bring in a bunch of isolating big foam sponge things that you're putting all over the room. We got to close down the slap on everything. And so when we were doing that, and I don't even remember how it started, but we got to we were trying to think of sounds. This is before it was easy to access like recorded sounds. Everybody's got a zillion now. But so we rolled an aerosol can across that shunkunk, 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 shunkunk. Next time you listen to it, then the other one was we had an old like pass-through door, and I was going, and I don't remember every single thing we did. There was this one part in the sound where I am holding a microphone like at one end of a long hallway, and Gordon is about 4 rooms away, and he starts yelling. And so you hear like this.
Yeah.
So he basically is running from the one room to another room across, and he took a 90, almost ran into the wall. Well, he probably did bump it. And then he's coming at me, and he slides right up to me. And so that was where that one came from.
Hilarious.
And then I think is that one, Power Tools. That's the one where we sometimes when you're doing, well, at least we do, when we're doing these things where you're, got the studio for 2-4 weeks, you are, you try to, you can get kind of burnt out after a while. You're just going and going. But I remember it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, because we might start recording at noon. This isn't a 9 to 5 job. So, because we might be out there till AM, whatever, and then you go to sleep and don't come in till like noon. And you start your day with lunch. So at the house there, there was something, I can't remember who it was. Gordon was usually one of the most crafty, creative guys, though Tommy could. But what we were saying, we need some radio preacher-like guy sounding. And, we could have probably tried to go through some videotapes of different people on television or something. But so we took a microphone, I remember SM58, out to the long cable, out to one of the guys' cars, and we're on AM and, twisting. We hear something, it's like, that he's not passionate enough. And we're trying to, and we found like this perfect thing, and one of the lines that are on the album, you might hear it saying, and I want you to put your hand on my gold Bible. And it was, theologically, I am on the opposite spectrum of a name it, claim it theology. And so that was what was being pontificated on the, 2 a.m. airwaves on AM whatever channel. And it was just like even his words were perfect with what we were trying to say in that song. It's a song that reminds me that we get frustrated with people that act a certain way when they don't know Jesus. But I try to remember, why would we expect them to act in a way that honors Jesus if they don't have him or know him? So, be compassionate for them, toward them, befriend them, and that kind of thing, where, policing our own house is probably a full-time job. And I know when people even do what I call church hopping, and others have called it that, but you're going to find humans at everyone that you go to, if it's still working. It's like, so it's never going to be perfect this side of heaven. Eden happened, and then the fall, and we're not in heaven yet. So all that space between, Eden and heaven is got a lot of busted up crap. And so when we have a perspective that way, thinking always of the patience that God has with me in my daily life, it is, that thing where you've got one finger pointing out and 3 pointing back at yourself, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that, and even just touching on that, I mean, with you go into churches and people are always saying, well, there's just a lot of hypocrites in there, and you have church people, who are leaving churches because they're like, you know what, I just saw that guy, doing whatever, last night. If they're going to let them in here, then I'm going to leave. And the thing is we can't judge. We don't know their relationship with God, or even if they have one, and maybe they're seeking that out. But it's funny how oftentimes we can judge people who may not be Christians according to Christian standards.
Yeah.
And instead of just embracing them as Christ would and saying, like you said,
what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on with you? Maybe you're not okay, and maybe this is the place that you're at, trying to figure it out because you heard this might be the right place. And then we push those people out, or we ourselves leave to find another perfect place, and instead of actually just being the church and embracing people. So,
and I think when
Keith Green was,
go ahead, Keith Green. What?
Keith Green
I love
said
him.
that. Oh yeah, me too. I remember him just. I was watching a video, and he's just like, a church is a hospital, like it's for people, for broken people, like and really trying to say, like, don't look for the perfection within the pews, like it is a hospital for people. And I loved listening to his songs. Phenomenal.
I was in
musician.
college when he was in his heyday, and when I might have been, I can't remember what year he died, but in the plane crash. But the
80s.
what is that with awesome musicians and plane crashes? It's weird.
I know.
Yeah, Keith was amazing. He was talking to the church a lot in ways that
He was.
the church needs to hear stuff. Loved him.
Oh yeah.
I still bring those back and show other people, like Asleep in the Light, as an example. It's like,
great song.
We just
Great
sit,
song.
I know, and he's so passionate about it, and he's just like, and we just keep, we just sit back and keep soaking it in, just give it to me.
Oh, yeah, that was super. We've no people to your door. Oh, it's awesome. He was so good. Love God well.
So I know we're
freaking overloaded his plane, but
I know, with his kids too. Yeah, but Melody keeps. Because he had 2 kids, I think, in his plane as well.
Several of them died. His wife was at home. I think she was maybe pregnant.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
She was pregnant. She's continuing his ministry.
Well, the funny thing about that is before he left, he hollered out at his car, "If our baby if I die, name our baby," and I forgot what the name was.
Oh.
And that was the last thing he said before he left.
Oh my goodness, haven't heard that.
Yeah, and then she named the baby what he had
After
said.
whatever he said. That's
Yeah.
sweet.
So
I
yeah,
was going to mention this, and it's random, but that's kind of how I roll. But my wife and I saw this black and white. There was a TV show. You guys may not have been on TV when you guys would have had brains, but the What's My
Just
Line, I think was the one it was on. It's basically it's a black and white show, and you have like three. I think there were three or four semi-famous people, and then a moderator, and they would bring somebody on the stage, and you had to guess what their job was. So out comes this, and I can't remember. He was like 12 or 13. Keith Green comes out when he's 12 or 13 years. This is a black and white. You can find it on the internet.
I've seen
And
it. Yeah.
and they're trying to guess what he does. And his thing was, signed the youngest recording contract or something like that. And that was before he knew Jesus. And it was really intriguing to see that and then to see what he became. Because when you hear him sing there, he really doesn't sound like what he sounded like, not just because he was younger, but he has a lot more vibrato in his, like a quiver subtly in his voice. That didn't seem to be. It was intriguing for somebody to listen. I listened voraciously to a lot of his stuff when I was in college, and but that was it was cool. I thought it was like, oh my gosh, he's like 13 years old and he's signing his first record deal. But he got a mess. He was like homeless for a while, kind of. He just had a weird, wild story. God redeemed him in a very sweet way.
Oh, I know.
exactly.
Boy, anointed. And then he would I love what he would do at his shows. Just nobody clap. I'm going to play the piano. Everybody leave.
Yeah, and everyone leave.
Yeah.
I don't have a drummer here. Don't be my drummer.
Yeah. Oh. I actually never got to see him. I was gonna go once with some other dudes at Taylor, and I can't remember what happened that I didn't go. But
The thing that what we did go to is we went to his memorial in California, and I'm not sure if it was a tour or what it was. But it's funny. We went to my parents took us to his memorial after he passed away, and there he was on the screen, and we're like, hey, there's that guy that you guys buy all the records of, and like, oh,
I know that song.
He passed away. He passed away, and then Melody came out and spoke, and then somehow we ended up in a kid's tent with a scary clown. And
It's funny you say that. I remember that. I don't think we've talked about this for like 30 years.
No, we haven't.
I remember the scary clown.
That's why I don't like circuses.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I even saw a scary clown in my real estate work that I do. That I was in an attic looking at some storage space in a house, and then it took a 90 at one corner, and it was dark in that section, and I turned and looked down this little hall in the attic, and oh, there's a light. And I flipped on the light, and at the end of this, about 15 feet away, is this freaky clown, like stuffed thing, human sized, like there. And it's just like, I think I probably screamed like a girl when it happened. And sorry that you mentioned the clown. That's my only recollection of a clown in my life that I can think of.
There you go. Hey, I know we're getting tight on time. I do have a question. How do you spell your first name?
RACK. It happened in the first album. I think Billy dropped it off because he thought it'd be cool. And I'm new to this whole thing. Okay, whatever. And then it's like, I think it was, I couldn't even keep track. But it's like the next one, like I got to spell it right, like my name, RACK. And then people started asking, it was one of the top questions. Hey, how do you spell your name? Is it RACK? And so then we, spelled it different every time because we just thought it was funny that people even asked that. That's cool that people read liner notes. That's a downside now. You don't have them at least in hand, but I guess you can look stuff up on Wikipedia or something.
Yeah. And I think that's where I found it like a year ago or so. Joe and I were we did one of the podcasts on Don't Wait for the Movie. And I'm like, I've got a fun fact. Like, Rick's name is spelled differently on every album. I'm like, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard of.
It was like
Just,
goofy, and we just kept going since
yeah,
people were asking all the time, and see,
yeah.
it just kind of lingered forever.
Now, one more question I just want to ask. You guys seemed just real. I think that was one of the things that really drew me in, and probably Matt too. We had our time in music for a little bit, and we just met a lot of people who it's like, hey, can you hold the stirrup while I get on my high horse? We didn't see that. We didn't see that from you at all. From you guys, you connected well with the band or with the audience. Even there was one time you guys were behind your table and signing stuff, and just very real. I mean, you guys just talking to people about just normal stuff. How with fame, with the audiences, with the buses and the trucks and all that stuff, how are you able to just maintain yourself to be grounded? Because I know it's probably easy at times where you're getting recognized all the time and stuff to possibly fall into that. I mean, how are you able to stay grounded in that?
I think what helps, there are things that being a band is harder than being a solo artist, and vice versa. There's some things that it makes it easier being a solo artist over a band. And one of the good things about being in a band is if somebody you start believing your press clippings, let's say, was a phrase got used sometimes. Like, people think our music's great. Like, you guys are, and if you start going, I guess I am great, aren't I? That's pretty awesome. And then you got somebody next to you in the tour bus that can bap you in the head and go like, shut up. We're all just inches away from having a chance to do something beautiful or something stupid. And so a little bit of iron sharpening iron at times, I think, of just like, if somebody was a bit weak in their, sensibilities at a time, there's enough people there to call somebody out for some things, I think, at times.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the benefit of having a band. You have, nobody gets their own hotel room. You have two guys to a room. Make sure nothing goes wrong on this, on the road. And so, but I think just from the arrogant perspective, there's always a little bit of battle on the seepage of that can because it doesn't feel horrible for somebody to tell you how great they think you are,
Yeah,
right.
So you just have to know that and be polite about it. Don't say, no, I'm not. I'm a jerk, But it's like inside yourself enough to know. And the older we get, the more we have more dumb stuff we've done in our life. Teenagers can do a high percentage of dumb stuff, until they get 25 or whatever. And you still end up doing some dumb stuff through the years. Hopefully you improve, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Yeah. And so it's just like life's a vapor. At my age now, it's just like, oh yeah, this life's really short, isn't it? When you're 19, it's like, woo, I get to live forever because 80 years from now is like a million years, isn't it? And it's like, I think I got one of our 5 kids has grandbabies for us. And, I just think of how some of his teenage years, he was like, woo. And now he's like 4 kids, juggling life, doing all this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, you guys spent a lot of time with us, didn't you? They get to see what we get the grandbabies to just go here and turn them back in. And so my mom always said that's why young people have kids, because older people, even though some do it, grandparents raising kids is not, I think, what we're meant to be. But speaking into their lives and loving them and stuff is. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, Matt, did you have another thing?
Just one. Ooh, was there an echo there? That was weird. What's your guilty pleasure? What's a random question? What's your guilty pleasure? If it's chocolate covered strawberries in a bath,
Yeah. Well,
romantic movies.
we have
I
a.
know that's weird.
Do you know what a king cake is?
No.
Before
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of, I think, originated Louisiana thing, and it's like a ring, and so like there's cream cheese, like filling stuff. That doesn't stink, for real. I love like pastry stuff, and need to try to not do a ton of it. But
Yeah.
what would be another thing? There's I do love like toffee, like and dark chocolate. That is
Oh,
also another
oh,
toffee, dark
score.
chocolate stuff, and ice cream is like you can't live in America and not like ice cream, and
That's right.
and then many of those things all come together for a yummy. It's,
That's right.
those would be
Especially in
some things
Blizzard.
at least came off the top of my head.
Yeah, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well,
TV
go ahead, man.
shows? Any crazy TV shows that's your go-to?
We go well, like you evolve as TV shows come and go through time or whatever. My wife and I often are watching some BritBox thing.
Okay.
There's like police shows or mystery stuff.
Oh yeah.
There was a great one several years ago we watched. I think it was only like 8 of them or something, but uh, is it William Branagh? He's very, Kenneth Branagh, that's right. Wallander uh, was a great one, but just stuff that's smart and
Hmm.
mystery stuff or spy stuff. That's anything
Yeah.
like that genre is what I dig.
Yeah.
Very
Very
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, hey, thank you. Just have to say thank you so much, Rick, for joining us today, and just appreciate it from two fans of Whiteheart and fans of yourself, and just appreciate the time and the insight. And honestly, as Joe's mentioned a couple of times here, the words that you've sang in albums and from stage penetrated the hearts of two kids that were broken at
Oh,
one point. And so just so you know, like I still listen to the songs in the car. They
hmm,
still penetrate me the same way. They bring me
yeah.
back to a place of brokenness and then bring me to today of hope.
oh,
And so just thank you for the journey that you've brought us on through various times in our life. And I can just imagine you've done it for a lot of the listeners and those that have followed you through the years. And so just know that your music still resonates today the way that it did at probably the time that you wrote it and recorded it. So
mm,
just thank you.
no,
Yeah.
thank you. It's literally thoughtful and um, one of the best things that we experience. Those encouraging words of how it helped a broken time is
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
anything that has eternal value. We were just an instrument at best because all of the important stuff God does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be
Couldn't agree more.
crazy. It'll be crazy when we're all together with the Lord, and the amount of stories you probably get to hear of if I wouldn't have heard this, or if I, wouldn't have
Mm,
gone here, just to see how that trunk of Whiteheart branched out, to mold people to be who they
mm.
are. So yeah, again, thank you seriously so much, and thank you for taking your time out of your Saturday. Thank your wife also.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Lending you
Thank
to
you
us.
so much for taking the time. Wish you all the best.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
You as
for
well.
so for everybody else, you've been listening to Twin Speak Christian music and other stuff. And we've had our wonderful guest Rick Florian from Whiteheart. Also, if you're in the Nashville area, for your house buying needs, right?
Right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's true. I would be more than happy to help you find a home.
Is that true?
See, there you go.
And there with my brother, who apparently, according to his name,
It'll be a
likes to eat.
powerhouse.
There you go.
What?
He likes to eat toilet paper, according to his
I don't
name.
understand
Really?
why you keep
Anyways,
changing.
That'd be way
Why did you
down on
change?
my totem pole. That's not
I
something I'm into. No.
yeah, I
didn't
don't know
know.
what's
Me
going on
neither.
with them, but anyways, listen, subscribe, share. Just be good people. Be a blessing to others, and be a blessing to God in everything you do. God bless you, everybody.
God bless everyone.
All right, bye bye.